up. An American operative is missing. He is a master of infiltration, deception, and psych warfare. Do not consider him secure unless you have driven a wooden stake through his open heart.
Ethan, the world's coming after you. You need to pick a side. Stay out of my way.
Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning.
Hello and welcome to Movie Buff's Cool Down, a mini show where we review movies playing in theaters right now. I'm your host, Shani B. You can find me on all the socials at It's Me, Shani B.
And I'm Cisco from Misfit Minded. You can find me at Misfit_Minded on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, and Rampage_Misfit on Twitter and Threads, I guess, since Twitter is dead now. But today we're reviewing Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, starring Tom Cruise, and then directed by Christopher McQuarrie, who's directed like the last 3 of them. So.
Okay, well, no spoilers, of course. That's always going to be our rule,
Yep.
but I need to know your reactions because I know you're amped. So please, I'll go after you because I want you to celebrate since when we reviewed Indy, it wasn't. You didn't love it as much. So let's see what you can do with Dead Reckoning.
Yeah. I kind of wanted to brush on that too. Like, we don't have to do it right now, but just like comparing 2 huge franchise blockbusters and why one works and one doesn't work. So we can get into that in a second. But overall, I thought that, this was another great addition to the franchise. Tom Cruise really out here saving cinemas. He did it last year with Top Gun Maverick. And I mean, he does it again. Like, this guy cannot miss. He just puts so much effort into it. It shows on the screen. I mean, one thing, like, clear as day, like, there's 2 train sequences in Indiana Jones and Mission Impossible. So, for example, I'll just put this example out there. I thought the train sequence in Indiana Jones was, like, just darkly lit, could barely see anything, CGI, no physical element to it to make me invested. Mission Impossible, they're actually on the train fighting each other. And it's nuts. And you can see the wind blowing on their face, their hair back, like, and of course, like, not all of it was practically probably, but it just feels real. Like, that's what I think you get in these Mission Impossible movies. That's why those stunts go a long way, that they do. So yeah, Haley Atwell coming into this, I loved her like forever, and she did great. This is like honestly like her movie. She's a co-lead with Tom Cruise. Shea Wiggum, another guy I've liked for a long time. Glad he's
the best
added into the mix. And then Pom Klementieff, who is from Guardians of the Galaxy. She was just in Part 3, a couple months ago. Mantis,
right through.
And she was so badass. She was honestly like a John Wick character, just dropped into the Mission Impossible franchise, and I loved it. And then, of course, Rebecca Ferguson, Vanessa Kirby, and the whole team, Ving Rhames, Simon Pegg. So I just love this universe. I love hanging out with these guys and their missions. Even though it can get like intense at times, it's like, it's going to work out at the end, things are going to be okay. And I think there's been a lot of Part 1 movies this year, with like, I haven't seen Fast X, but I heard that's a Part 1 movie. I did see Across the Spider-Verse, and I think this is like the best example of like how you should do a Part 1. They titled it Part 1. You can see this, and it's its own complete movie. Like, the last act is like insanity. Like, that's like a last act that would work for any Hollywood blockbuster. Like, period.
It's traditional.
Like,
it's the traditional in the sense that it delivers on what it's supposed to deliver.
And that was one of the things I brushed up on Across the Spider-Verse, is I thought there was no finale fight, set piece. Like, it kind of leaves you hanging, which I know worked for some people, but you have to, deliver that one last. I feel like that's like the best way to do it, is like you deliver one last action crazy set piece, and then it's like, oh man, that was awesome, I can't wait to the next one. So that's kind of like where I'm at with this one for me. But yeah, what about you?
Yes, yes. Well, I love hearing your take on it. I'm so happy that you enjoyed it. I too love this universe, these people, spending time here. And what's interesting is I feel a little conflicted with this because, to your point, having just seen Indiana Jones, a deep film within a franchise, and then seeing this, another very deep film in a franchise, I can't help but try to think about how that affected me watching this one, if that makes sense, because this one was so interesting to me in terms of what it seemed like it was birthing, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
So I don't know if that's what you mean when you say this is how you do a part one, but I'll say what I felt most strongly came across for me is that there is something new afoot. There is this new amazing energy coming off of Haley Atwell. There is espionage that needs to start coming back into the fold again because we need to evolve into a future where, straight up, if I'm honest, we've literally done everything before. Like,
Hmm.
that's okay because there's only so much one can do when they're
Yeah,
as dope as
there's
Ethan.
no
But
dirt bike off of a cliff. They haven't done that before, so
right,
I
right,
appreciated that.
yeah. I mean, it's amazing because it's just like we were talking about, and it's the way we have to talk about all franchises, which is how does this work as like an entry within itself, and how does this stay true to the content that it is? And that's sort of making sure that Tom Cruise keeps in this mission franchise what all of us want and need, which is some kind of stunt where he could totally die, and then him just being like, but guys, don't worry, I totally didn't die. And he did do that and
Yeah.
then managed to maybe correctly poise this franchise to continue with the queen of continuing a franchise on TV, Miss Haley Atwell.
That's right, that's right. Yeah, I mean, I just like
I don't know.
when I think of Tom Cruise, like and like signature franchise for a person. Like Vin Diesel, it's Fast and Furious. Like Tom
Mm,
Cruise for me, it's Mission Impossible. Like I wasn't a fan
absolutely.
of Top Gun, like the first one, so I mean, pleasantly surprised with the sequel. Thought it was
Mm,
way better, but like I rewatched all the Mission Impossible movies leading up to Dead Reckoning, and like it was such a great like rewatch. Like I
yes.
found more to appreciate like going back, my ranking changed and just like
Mm,
I don't know, I just like
I mean,
they're just all I think there's all good movies. Like a lot of people shit on 2 or whatever and it's like it's
yes,
John Woo, so it's like at a bare minimum you're going to get crazy action sequences and there are
yes.
like it's so
I
I
mean,
don't think there's a
that is the
bad apple
power.
in the bunch. Like I think
No,
out of 7 movies, like how many franchises could you say with 7 movies that there's that many in my opinion, like, and they haven't missed at all. But like,
no.
so
I mean, the Fridays, the
you put
Halloweens,
on the
there's
list.
always misses in
Yeah.
the mix here, but you're right. That's what's so amazing about this movie is that not only and this franchise is that it has affected both the way stories are told, but also the way we think of an actor. Because his iconic role for like the first half of his career was Top Gun,
Right.
but then he's like far outweighed that by making so many mission films and basically saying like his iconic role is this, but what he will always be known for in the franchise of his belt is this. And it's just amazing for him to basically be like one of those UFC fighters who drops a weight class and carries the belt there too.
Yeah, and I mean, like, he produces all of these movies too, so it's like, I feel like sometimes we can be like,
Nailing
this
it.
actor is, we can put too much stock in how much they affect the franchise or whatever, but, like, no, Tom
But
Cruise, this is his franchise through and through, and then
yes.
McQuarrie, like, them together doing the last 3, like, it feels like they have such a strong bond going, like, right now
Mhm.
to where, like yeah.
That's actually where I take issue, is that
Oh,
what
okay.
I love most about this franchise
Uh-huh.
was this amazing ability it had for Tom Cruise to be this tentpole, but to find a through line where any auteur could come in and say, "Here's how I see Ethan." And he'd be like, "Cool, in your world, I'll just be Ethan, the espionage person who like finds a way to operate in what you see."
Mhm.
And I really enjoyed watching these directors kind of keep coming in and like reinterpreting him
Mhm.
and creating new ways of looking at him. And while I love what Macquarie is doing and I really like their partnership, there's something I feel a little lost in being like, yeah, but this is very far away from De Palma. even though this one has
Mhm.
the most espionage and the most grounded raw edges of what this franchise has been in a long time,
Mhm.
I still am like, this isn't quite as unique because we have to do the same thing now. We have the same we've stretched a story more than one film, and that's just like not what I'm used to.
Mhm.
Similar to how we talked about with Indiana Jones, where like the changing the structure, I think has finally got to me,
Mhm.
which makes me sad because I'll show up every time.
Yeah.
But I feel bad being a sort of fanny
Well,
bee of this one.
that's where I was at Indiana Jones, so, I mean, that's it happens.
Right? It's really I think I'm with you there too, that with some time, it's interesting to have the same kind of conversation about any franchise, which
Mhm.
is it about the directors that have kept it alive? Is it about their centerpiece that's kept it alive? And it is interesting, with John Wick and Creed and Indiana Jones and now Mission, there's a lot of people who have been these figureheads. It's really amazing. And I mean, nobody is better than Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
He keeps that shit alive in a way where like, I love it. I serve. I'm here to serve, except I'm not, joining any clubs
I will say, just to be clear, the first Mission Impossible is still my favorite, and, what else did you
for life.
Yeah, so, I mean, and I so with to the auteur point, like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of, like, other, like, action directors right now, but I feel like they're all doing their own it's either swallowed up by superhero stuff or,
Yes.
Stahelski's in the John Wick universe, and that's, like, what he's doing with all his time, so, as much as I'd like to see, like, a Michael Bay Mission Impossible movie, at the same time, I'm like, I don't know, like, I think this one especially too was, like, they do enough to, like, make it a little bit different. So, like,
Yes. A little.
this one was, like, the funniest, I feel like, out of the last 3,
It
like,
was like
hands
fun.
down. It was like Looney Tunes, like, Buster
It reminded
Keaton.
me of like 70s Bond, where he's like doing little quips, making impotence jokes, like being zany in the stunts all of a sudden. It was an interesting kind of
Well, him
pivot.
and
And that's
Haley
what I mean
Atwell
when I
and
say
their, like, flirtatious thing,
yes.
and, like, again, like, I've seen so many boring car chases, and, like, the car chase in this one was, like, maybe my favorite out of the McQuarrie, like, I don't know. I do like the one in Fall. I mean, and I think Fallout's still their best, like, hands down.
It's so hard because I think that's what it is too, is that in a sense, everybody will get stifled by the world that they've expanded because eventually the earth is complete or
Mhm.
something. And I feel like that is what I'm getting more and more nervous about with all my favorite franchises and also like feeling the fatigue around at the same time. And that's what I think is amazing about this franchise is that like somehow it finds a way to keep evolving, and I really appreciate that like I know it can't stay the same. I know it needs to let go. And I know it tried with Jeremy Renner, but I'm curious, do you think like what I guess what do you think this means going forward? You enjoyed this
Mhm.
movie, but what are your takeaways as you prepare for the second half?
I think they're in a great spot. I mean, like you said, like Jeremy Renner. I will say, like, I'm not the biggest Renner fan, so like, it's so funny that like they brought him in. He was like a major part of Ghost Protocol, and then they just slowly like brought him out of it. And I'm kind of like, I don't mind. Like
It's
he just
awkward.
doesn't have the juice. I'm sorry, he does not like, and that's always been my problem with him. He's just so mayo to me, and
Well, it's a thing where the juice he has is really unique. It's like he doesn't have the juice that the guys he's supposed to follow up for have. He does not have Damon's juice, and he does not have Tom Cruise's juice. He is his own brand,
yeah.
and maybe we'll find it someday. But it was interesting to be in a place where that team is building and all my favorites are kind of around, but then sort of being like, yeah, but like when people aren't around, no one says a single word about it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just like they brought in all these new people, so I'm excited to see like where they go. Like they set that up. And speaking of evolving, the villain in this one is AI. Like I thought that was like
I
perfect.
don't know if I like that.
What?
You liked it? Oh
Yes.
shit. Okay, please bring it to me. Bring it to me cuz that is where I got was stifled. So
Okay.
yeah, tell me the vibe. Yeah, tell me what
Well,
you
it's like
liked.
it's just I just it's not reading into it. I feel like too much to be like Tom Cruise hates streaming and he hates algorithms and he hates like and so to me
That's so
this was a
good.
huge middle finger being like you think you can do my job? Like let me tell you why you will never be able to make a Mission Impossible movie the way that we do it and I just loved it for that. Like
It's very, very Clint Eastwood of
yeah.
him. Very Clint Eastwood of him. Wow.
Yeah.
I love reading it that way actually, because I agree. I think that's such a good way to read it, and it makes a lot of sense. He is so passionate about this. I just think maybe that was lost on me in real time because there's something about how Mission Impossible always found a way to make me not know the thing I was afraid of, and then for them to be like, "Ooh, you didn't know you should be afraid of this."
Yeah.
And so I guess I also just feel fatigue with AI being bad, like across the board. Not even in this context. I think it's like again, like stuck in this space where a lot of the stories are mirroring each other, even when it's okay. Like in this context where he's probably using it for good reason. These other movies have ruined it for me.
I think I'm okay with it just because a lot of the other villains in the franchise, again, rewatching all of them, I noticed like you really don't know their motivation at all. Like, it's like, yeah, they have like
Mm,
it's always like some generic like, blowing up the world or trying to create chaos or whatever like that. So like to get us
yeah, I
to
will.
get a sentient
Mm.
entity, they call it, that's just do
Like crossing
that's
over
doing like
into the Terminator space.
so like all these movies are about like an agent going rogue. So what happens when the internet goes rogue, like AI goes rogue? Like so as like a nice to me mirror. And I will say the one part I brushed up on in terms of like the villain. So like Isai Morales, great actor. Thought he did
Oh,
an incredible job in this. Just really
yes,
scary
yes.
and like they call him like a ghost. Like he plays that ghost part
It's
really well.
true.
But they give him
Mhm.
kind of this connective tissue to Ethan, not to spoil anything, and I just didn't feel like that was necessary. Like it was just like
Agreed.
very like tacked on. I felt like, and I was just like, if he was
Well,
just
it
like
was a
somebody
strange
that just
yeah, it
like
was a
handpicked
strange thing.
Ethan because he's like, I know that you're behind all of these incredible missions or whatever, and but I guess they kind
I
of did
mean,
that
like
with
every
Fallout,
other
but
villain,
I don't
I
know.
know what you hold
Yeah.
dear because you've been in this game a long time and we hear tell stories of you, like there is something interesting because that's true too, is that, like, I know because of Shia, We Must Strike from the Record, movies like Eagle Eye, but I liked how in that movie, the AI is really, like, extorting
Mhm.
people and controlling them as a villain, and I think that's another reason why we're, like, in this instance, I'm interested to see what it means for the AI to work with him. Like, what I guess I'm most interested in this idea that like AI and this human would work together in some kind of way where his maniacal plan can get realized.
Well, that's
So I guess
yeah, that's part of what I liked about it, I guess,
that's what I'm
is
wondering.
because it wasn't just the AI is bad. It was like another level of it of all these nations want this power. So it's like this huge
Yes,
global race to get control of this. And like the MacGuffin
like
compared
everything.
to Indiana Jones, I thought was really cool. It's like these two little keys. So you
Mhm.
needed to put them together. I mean, it's kind of similar to the dial in Indiana Jones,
It's the
but
same. I
yeah,
mean, all
in all
movies, right? We're
movies.
stuck. We're stuck.
But yeah, it was another component to like the AI. It wasn't just AI is bad. It's like these people want to
Right.
use AI, and also AI is kind of manipulating things along the way, and
Yes.
predicting Ethan's behavior on his past and all this other stuff. So that stuff to me I thought was pretty cool. And another thing
Yeah, I'm
that
excited.
uh they were going to do a DH Tom Cruise at one point at the beginning and they decided against it, and that's another Indiana Jones parallel where I thought that de-aging stuff did not work and it went on for 30 minutes and I'm like, yeah, again, Cruise does not need this technology bullshit. He just gets it
No,
done,
he's not about it.
stunt work,
Mm-mm.
and that's all you need. And they had like a little silhouette, I guess, in that part. I'm like, that's all you need. You don't need any more than that. Like it was cool. It's fine.
Nope, nope. Ugh, it's
So
true. It's this movie, that movie. We're definitely reaching a peak where quality is going to matter more and more. And so I'm excited to see the next piece.
mhm.
I'm curious. There, I feel like this is a classic first part too, where a lot of people are here, and I know they're going to play a part later. I'm just excited to see whatever part they're going to play.
Yeah, and it's like with Dune Part 2 coming out this year, and it's like I know a lot of
Another
people
one.
were mixed on the first one because they felt like there wasn't that much like there
Not a lot. It sort of
happening.
happened. I mean,
Yeah, and it's like,
ugh,
well, I'm interested to see how people feel when Part 2 comes out with Dead Reckoning and with Dune Part 2 and to see if like their opinions change
same.
based on that. But I mean I think with all movies it's like did you justify the reason for what you did? And it's to me I thought they justified the Part 1 aspect of it. It is two and a
Okay,
half hours long already, already, so it's like they
roughly made
probably had a lot of more to tell and they just decided to split it into two halves. And so
stuff.
I'm cool with
Totally.
that. And yeah, I'm looking forward to see like what they do next. It's not, I would still, one of my friends said he prefers the action in this to John Wick 4. I can't go that far. I really, yeah,
Whoa.
I thought John Wick 4's
Big.
action was a little better for me. I prefer that hand to hand you know gun fu action.
That's your vibe, totally,
But
yeah.
I mean, again, that some of the car stunts in this were, on par with John Wick. Like it's still very
I mean,
close. They're up there as some of the best.
they're both so
Yeah,
strong. When you have 2 strong things to compare, it can be hard
yeah.
to find a winner, and it's hard to compare them. They're both so good, and so we'll just have to see. I think I this is not, like, my favorite mission or something,
Mhm.
but it's perfectly enjoyable and serviceable, and it's definitely shot to be seen on a big, massive
Yes,
screen, so
definitely.
I definitely would say if you're in the mood or interested at all, it's definitely worth it, and I'm sure what would you say? Would you say the same?
Yeah, definitely see this in the theater. Same friend though, he did say he saw it in IMAX, and I guess this wasn't shot on IMAX. So if you're thinking about like, the
Oh, snap.
format to see it in, you can skip the IMAX screenings. I don't
Ooh,
think
do
so.
Dolby maybe,
Yeah,
because I bet the soundscape is probably baller.
yeah.
Okay, that's good to know.
So,
That's good to
but
know.
yeah, again, just
Awesome.
like I think we can both agree that as far as this year, action has been very strong. Like there's been
Yes,
like, we've been
it's
doing
a
this
year
for
for it.
over a year, and there's been some times where it's like we do a lot of older stuff because the new stuff that's coming out is really not up to par, or like stuff that we
Lame.
don't want to
Yeah.
talk about. And it
Yep,
seems like every week there's like a new action thing that we can talk about. So I'm really excited that this
it's
has been
true.
a very strong year for stunts and action. So
So
yeah.
awesome. So, so awesome. All right, that wraps it up for us. Thank you for listening to Movie Buff's Cool Down review of Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. Let us know what you thought of the movie, and let's remind the people where they can find us. So you never miss a rep. Follow the Buffs on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch at We Stay Buff. Take us on a ride and subscribe to the podcast on Apple and Spotify. And please leave a positive review. 5 stars is the dream. And of course, follow me personally on all the socials at It's Me, Shani B.
Yes, and you can follow me on Twitter at rampage_misfit and at my movie pages at misfit_minded on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, TikTok, wherever, that's where I'm at. So thank you guys again for watching. Thanks for listening. Hope to catch you for our next review on Movie Buffs Cool Down. Stay buff.
Stay buff. Yes! Same time. We nailed it.